Well, happy today. Um, I've just noticed my one of my pages gave me a little message of something. So hopefully we are live. I love technology. It's like technology. It works until it doesn't. But that is great about it. But now we have all green lights, and so we are live. Um, So I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com, and this is Disconnect to Connect, one-word conversations. Now, there has been a lot of change. There's been a lot of growth. There's been a lot of things in this show and within this conversation that, if you've been following me for the last 3 weeks, you've probably seen. And really, when it comes to the word we have for today, you know, imagine, um, if you would have talked to me maybe just in January, I wouldn't have imagined that I would be on a daily show, having this conversation. It was just not in the possibilities of the things that how I saw my business, how I saw this conversation. But here we are. And I think the more that I allow myself to imagine possibility or imagine things, things can show up in my life. So, um, as I do, I don't have these conversations by myself, or most of the times I don't. I'll ask a friend to come in, and so we can have this conversation together. So, good morning, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing great. So, this is the moment where I ask my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Okay. I am Paul Sockett. I am an actor. I'm English, and I am a multi-potentialite, if anyone's familiar with the Emily Wapnick multi-potentialiteness.
Great.
And so acting doesn't define me as a person. I have lots of different fronds that I attribute to myself.
No, I totally get that. I'm the living beyond our labels guy, right? And I think in some of that has, come up because I had at one point the actor label. I don't know why it came out labor, right?
It can be labor.
But right. I know. You know what? I think that's why I no longer have that label, because the work of the actor really kind of, I thought that I could just show up, know my lines and show up and think I was acting, and it's so much more than that. So within our conversation in the framework of the word that we have for today, how does imagine show up for you?
So I'm a bit of a word nerd. So our usage of words is really important, and I think there's a lot of energy in every word that we use. So I've tried sitting with the word imagine, and to me, the energy around it is one of agency. It's something that is a very inside out word, rather than something like, so synonyms are really important to me. So stuff like wonder or be curious is to me something that we allow control externally. It feels like something that we will then receive.
Right.
But to imagine means that, or it manifests itself for me anyway, in something that there's creation there. That it that we don't need to know the answers. There's something
Right.
about wonder or curiosity that either requires us to know the information, or that we need or want to know the information in order to make a choice.
Right.
Whereas imagine removes those barriers and is something that we can use our life experience. I mean, as an actor especially, this is something that we're asked to do on a regular basis, is to embody something else, is to imagine that the room we're in is not the rehearsal room, that the thing we're picking up is a microphone, not a bottle, is, you know. So we have to imagine that we are in that space. We can't wonder what that space is and play it. We have to create it using imagination.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I can see areas in my life that, because I am so, I guess, committed, and I've used before that I have this unhealthy relationship with consistency. And sometimes how that shows up is that I'm so committed to what I see or what's present or what's in front of me that I can't imagine. I can't move forward. I can't look at possibilities for things. And so there, that balancing act of staying present, because this is what we have, but really giving myself space to imagine the possible is my journey as an entrepreneur and just as a human being, and just living my life. And the acting training, that I had, kind of created this. I guess for me, because acting was an escape. There was a reality in my life that I wasn't dealing with. So it wasn't a sense of play. It wasn't a sense of skill and profession and everything. It was, I don't like how my life is, so I'm going to be someone else. I'm going to take other roles. I'm going to do that. So when I really got into acting, and I really got, at that choice where I was going to decide if I was going to make this a career or everything, I had to look and say, no, I don't have what it takes I can't imagine myself living this way. I can't really kind of own this type of lifestyle and way of showing up. And so it was a good thing, but in some cases I feel like I'm missing the potentials of my life because I've lost a sense of imagine for me.
Well, it's really interesting because what you said about not being able to imagine living a career like that. The whole point with imagine is that you can imagine anything.
Right.
There's something about the evidence or experience-based component of that actually imagination is choice. It's a really low stakes, like no stakes choice, because we can deliberate, we can be curious, we can wonder, we can do all these things that we hope for or need or want a bit of information to make a choice clearer. But to imagine is actually something that is present, that we, because it's embodied, because it's come from our experience and our conditioning and shaping,
Right.
that is within us. And so we can't avoid having a chemical emotional response to that thing. So what we get to feel is actually what that choice may feel like, and then we get to choose whether we action that or not.
Right.
And some things might not be implementable in that moment. So I might want to ride a unicorn,
Right.
and that, within the context of whatever I'm imagining from, that might be part of that imagination. So I get to feel what that excitement, wonder, or, what would I tell people? Like, would people believe me? We get to feel all those things. We get to live that small part of our experience to then choose whether that's something we want or not.
Yeah, I totally get that. It is something, like I said, it is a balancing act. I recognize that it's a choice. Um, and, but because my imagination, or how I see, um, in that space of imagine, right, is more of a play, or is a more of a, uh, wishful hoping, as I say, or something that I, is like beyond reality, so far beyond reality. I've had, the director tell me once that, hey, go big, because I can bring you back, but I can't pull it out of you.
Right,
I don't know if you've
right,
ever
right,
heard
right.
of that one type of thing, but
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
but that's, and for me, that being too big, or going too far, my imagination, because I see myself as a visionary leader. And there are some things that I see and that I imagine that I don't speak of, because it scares the hell out of me. And so, because I don't share my imagination, because I don't, express sometimes the vision that I see of my life, um, I discount it to a point that there is, I I can't lead my vision. If that
Mm,
if that makes sense. And
mhm.
it just really, um, I have a dear coaching friend, that you may know her, that, most of our coaching times is just like, do it, William Brown, right? It's like, say it,
Right.
William Brown, and it's just, go after it, William Brown. It is that type of thing, because the I guess the bigness of my life, and my imagination, scares the holy bejesus out of me. And it just really kind of like, is this possible?
Mm.
Is this too far? And
There
I
is no
think
such
that,
thing. That's the
right.
that's the really that's the liberating, terrifying thing. Is so from what you were just saying, it's fear. It's not the imagination. It's the fear, right? And it's the
Mm,
creation, which isn't imagination. Like there is a fact in the creation of fear, which is based
mm,
around what has happened to you before, the evidence, right?
right,
Whereas the
right.
imagination is actually something that is it, there's a release in imagination
Mm,
that um, that we get to. So in our room of known, like it's like writing a to-do list, or um, so I wanted to buy a new suitcase, okay, and I
okay.
and I am trying to live a life of perfect and speaking into reality. So I wrote a list of every possible component of this suitcase that would make the perfect suitcase for me, not for
Right.
society, for me. And so you write the kind of the obvious things. It needs to be cabin sized. It needs to have a handle. It needs to have 4 wheels. It needs to, etc., etc. Right? It needs to be, so there's sort of 5 or 6 things that are the kind of,
Right.
oh yeah, they're safe, they're general enough. Like I can expect to find that suitcase,
Right.
even though I've written it and it's specific to me. It's general enough that I can make that dream, that imagination, that imagined reality, reality. But when I start to specify, it needs to be, it needs to have like one handle, like not one of the those ones. It needs to be like a straight one handle, because I've got big
Right.
feet. So with a cabin size suitcase, space inside is the most important thing. So I've
Right.
worked it out. I had one handle, boom. four wheels, an expanding zip. All it needs to be fabric inside, not thingy. I want it to be like 2 solid halves rather than like the one with like the top. Like it just got super specific. And I went shopping with my, so it's working past the first 5 or 6. Because the things that we don't allow the space for in here, because we've got like, oh, there's the expectation, and it's like, oh, why am I imagining this 12 component perfect thing for me?
Right.
Because ultimately, if I go shopping and I find 90% of that, am I going to buy it? Because the majority of the time, I will buy it because I've imagined this thing. But is that really possible? Yeah, it actually is. Because I found my perfect suitcase, the one handle thing. Like it blew my mind.
Right.
And I found this thing. I was like, that's everything on the list. I'd had a chance to buy 3 or 4 of the suitcases beforehand that had that handle.
Right.
But the fact that I'd given myself the time to work past the list of 5 obvious things,
Right.
it really created clarity. So imagine is not a dreamlike state. I think that's how we lump it together. We go that imagine is kind of like hazy and, you know, wishy and it's all a bit blurry and, you know, whatever. But actually imagine pushes the edges. It opens that one door that we don't go in because we're kind of safe in this box, in this container that we've created. There is a door. We've never opened it because it's kind of fine in here. But what is through there?
Right. I think there's a level of giving yourself permission to see or to find what you see. I mean, that's how it landed for me. It is like, you know, your example of the luggage of I think for me, there's many times when I put down my wants and needs and my desires. And then the last thing that I say is, well, I'm probably not going to find that, but and then it's kind of like throws everything out. And then I show up and I get what I get. Mm-hmm. And so it is really what I'm getting from this is take imagine out of this whimsical play type of thing, and more into, of reality that I want to create, for my life. Mm-hmm. And have and be intentions and be intentional in it. And I think, you mentioned before that you like to play with words, and I think in some respects, I'll speak for myself here. There's a lot of words that I have to like unlearn or relearn, right? Because how they were introduced to me, I still hold on to that, and they no longer serve me. And it's like, crap, it's like, who told me that, right? It's like, why do I believe that? But that's, so, and I think really, in the framework of disconnect to connect, really disconnecting from my understanding of a word or words, so it can connect me to something that can serve me now, that can really cause me to live in, versus stay disconnected or even stay in a state of confusion or just denying myself of, I guess, the fullness of something. Now, there's for me, I'm getting excited about playing with Imagine now, but creating my reality within it, creating a reality and saying, hey, I am this is what I imagine, and this is going to be my reality. And just kind of, going for it, versus this, I wish, I hope, and this kumbaya type of relationship that is really not serving me anymore.
Right. Because if we get to imagine, so this is just relating to that, the choice of words, right?
Right.
Imagine a world where you, William Brown, never use the word should. And then there's like the other option. So like, I wonder what it would be like if I never said should again. The potency of, imagine what it would be like there was a forward movement with that word, because what we do is there's a reason it's called the Imaginarium, isn't it? Is it Disney? Or
Yes.
Pixar or something? At the Imaginarium.
It's Disney. Well, Disney has them both, so
right.
Disney, Pixar, nothing on it.
But it's the incentive to just create with no wrong answers. It doesn't matter if it becomes the final product. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong.
Right.
But by imagining, we create some form of reality,
right.
no matter how fleeting.
Right.
By wondering, we sit back. It's a very, I'm waiting. Something will appear, something will be told to me, something will make it clearer what the truth of that thing is.
Right.
And as an actor, imagining, every time I do one piece of script and the director comes in and goes, give me bigger, give me, I don't know, imagine there's now a table there. The whole script changes. The meanings of the word change, because I have to imagine why that table was put there in the first place.
Right.
Like, who bought it? Who did the thing? Who did the thing? And I do, like computer brain just creates some stuff, right? It just imagines someone's father bought it. It's been handed down. They don't want it, blah. And you do the scene.
Right.
And as soon as that's been done, there's no right or wrong. There's just an option. And you can do it again. You can go, okay, there's no table there, and now there's a lamp and it's not on. You go, okay, why is the lamp not on? Should I have to, should I have turned the light on? Do I turn the light on? Am I in a position in this household to turn that lamp on?
Right.
And none of it's wrong. All of it's right.
Right.
You just get to pick and choose. That's the thing. You get to select from a much more specific to you list of options.
Yeah, it brings me to one of my favorite lines in the Game of Thrones. I think it was like the last season, and I think it was Tyrell, the Lady Tyrell, or the Queen. I don't know what her. I can't, for some reason I can't remember her name right now. But it was like her, her final scene when she was going to die and everything, and she said one of her her greatest failures in life was a lack of imagination. And if you watch any of that, it was because kingdoms were killing other kingdoms and all that, and do horrible things to each other. And there were some things that she just couldn't imagine to do that the other kingdom, the other person would do. And it's like, damn it, right? If I would have, if I would have just imagined, some more horrible things, this probably wouldn't be my last scene right now. And I take that, the reason why I bring it up, because I take that on in my life and my work, in my relationships. And sometimes, I don't show up fully within my, in those areas of my life, is because of my lack of imagination, of my lack of seeing the potential of, what if I say yes to this? What if I, do another video? What if I, take a 10-minute break right now and instead of plowing through, those type, I don't imagine, too often, I don't take those opportunities to imagine different or another reality that I could create for myself, because I am so busy at times doing the work, doing the thing, you know, working so hard to get it right. And I think that's how it showed up in my acting, is, to bring that up again, is I was so committed to learning my lines and learning the blocking. I had no curiosity, or I had no imagination to kind of really see how this character moved around or really was engaged. And, I was convincing enough. I was more convincing than some people, and less than others. But for me, it didn't bring life to me, because I knew that there was a point that I began and this character, ended. And because I didn't, or I wouldn't give myself to the role, there was this disconnect. And I think in some cases, that's how I live my life. That's how I show up in my work. I don't give myself to it. I don't imagine myself fully in something to really see if the reality that is possible will come up. And I don't know if I'm overthinking this or anything like that, or if
no, but so the thing that came, so you used the word lack a few times, that you lack the imagination,
right?
And what is true is that everyone has an imagination. The sociopathic killer has an imagination.
Right.
The child who is 1 year old has an imagination, right?
Right.
Every single person is complete with a full life, however long that life may be.
Right.
They have a lifetime's worth of imaginative potential. And so fear of scarcity, of comparison, like the things you were saying, is, I didn't give myself wholly to a role. That's actually not true. Like within the confines of going on stage or going on screen and doing the lines that you'd learned, the space that you had created to express those lines through that character in that space, in that time, with that company, because it differs from company to company, was you wholly in it. But imagination gives us, again, it's going back to the no stakes thing. So what we can do is the more options we have, the more things in the toy box that we've chosen to put in there, means that we can move and shift as we go along. It means that, okay, that didn't work that time. Doesn't mean it couldn't work, a month down the line in rehearsals, but everything else changes around then. So the toys in the box change, but it requires our imagination to go, it's the standard questions of whenever you enter a scene, it's where am I coming from? Where am I going to? You ask those questions. Where am I coming from? Is it raining? Is it cold? Is it midnight? Is it 3? Is it 3 in the afternoon? And where am I going? Am I going into that room, or am I going through that room to the stairs to go upstairs? Like the energy of which we then enter a space is dictated by our imagination and the amount of options we give ourselves.
Right.
So it's not about what would, if I hadn't got the job. This is where we, I think, confuse imagination with the fear and the scarcity-based examples and comparisons that we give ourselves. Because we go, well, if I hadn't got the job, and Johnny Morano, I don't know, had got the job instead, because I knew it was down to us two, and he'd got the job instead, I wonder how he would have done it. Would he have done it better than me? Would he have entered that room better than me? And this is the thing that terrifies me about our industry. It's based on comparison. It's actually strangely stifling, because it tries to demand of us to conform, that the people like Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, they stand out as different.
Right.
And we would probably say that those were the most imaginative actors out there.
Right. I've heard that.
But eccentric, because they allow those possibilities to be tried, whether it lands or not. Some of the films that Jim Carrey's done have not been critically acclaimed. Some people can't stand him because his way of portraying something, my mum can't stand him. It's just the way that he portrays things. He's just so over the top. It's so too much. And that's what we fear. We fear standing out for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And we can't, not everyone is going to give us rave reviews. That's okay. Right. We are not responsible for the reactions of others.
Yeah. I think you just gave me something there, is, because a lot of my conversation is around self-awareness and self-discovery, all the way to self-love. And I think because on that road of self-discovery, we are on this road alone with others, right? And so my balance of how I am on this journey with others is my ability to judge if I'm too much for people. if I'm, my awareness of myself is too loud or too whatever, or or in some cases too small, and people don't recognize, and people will walk past me or walk by me and not even acknowledge me. It's like I'm here, right? Type of thing. And really, the more that I can not just imagine my life as fully expressed, but just live my life fully, and then allow the imagination to just come, to just appear, and not be afraid of it, and not to judge it or question that. And that is, that is something that I didn't realize how tough it was for me. I recognize that I want to be liked, appreciated, heard, seen, all those things that we all want. But when it gets to a point that it's keeping me from imagining my life as anything other than what I see, then we got a problem right now, and so it's like, so I appreciate that framing and that insight, and recognizing the fear and the lack mentality is not humbling. It's not being humble. It's restrictive.
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah.
And it's not showing up in the world, and it's something that even on my journey of self-discovery and self-love, I have to be reminded to stay on that journey for myself. I can invite people on that journey all I want. I can help people on their own journey all I want. But if I don't remember to stay on that journey for myself, I can lose sight of myself, just as quickly as, I found it. And so yeah, just imagine a world where I can imagine a world where people are fully self-expressed. And it's not, I mean, it's amazing. It is just, in some cases, how I see people in that is, it's not, it's kind of, I don't have the exact language, but it's like they're beams of light bouncing off of each other. It's like kind of just really just like going. There's a flow to it. And there are some moments where these areas are brighter than others, and all that, and just kind of, I don't know exactly what's happening, what's the outcome, or something, but there is a space of it being, there is an illumination that is happening more in some places, and I think sometimes I don't allow myself to see that or kind of believe that because of what I see of how people show up now, not fully expressed and kind of in conflict with each other and putting each other's light out and all that. And so it's like, geez, I don't want more of this, and so I can't see. So my desire to help people to get on their own journey to basically see themselves, really, is to get back to that, that what I imagine of people being fully expressed, because I don't share that. I don't share that often, because people like, yeah, people, people are buttholes, so that's not going to happen, right? So I mean, it's like no, there's so much more of us. There's so much more that if we have the awareness of self, that we can show up. And so yeah, so I can imagine that. But I think where I realized that my fear of speaking that and sharing that is tripping me up. And the more that I'm able to share that and speak that, the more that I am able, I think, that I will give myself permission to believe it, and then I will work towards to see it and stay in the actions to see it. So that's what I'm getting. So I'm jazzed now. It's like, hey, let's just kind of unlock people.
Right. And this the really exciting thing about imagine, right? And I keep coming back to wonder, and it's not like necessarily an antonym, but it's as close to an opposite as I can sort of in this moment find. And so what I caught was you were mentioning, like, if I can allow myself to be more imaginative. And actually what feels true in this moment to me as I kind of, as those words come through me, is like, we actually, like, imaginative is our standard.
Wow.
So the only thing we do is stifle our imagination. So it's not about allowing ourselves to be. We are, as a standard, imaginative. So it's about, so yes, it's getting out of our own way, but with it, just trust is like such a powerful thing, because if you do you believe in sort of manifestation and speaking things into reality and things like that? Right.
I do.
Perfect. So you said, I imagine a world where everyone is, and I'm paraphrasing, sort of self-connected and, heart-centered, which means it's possible. Because someone imagined a car that moved without the power of pedals or pushing or whatever. But because it hadn't happened before, they didn't go, that's going to be a bit, that's going to be difficult. Right.
Right.
Because that is imaginable, doesn't matter if it's just you that can imagine it. It is possible. And yes, we're terrified of jumping into a body of water if we can't see the bottom. But if wanting to be part of a world, of a global change, where people actually make conscious choice 95% of the time and care for themselves 95% of the time, with another 5% of awareness to sort of go, oh, clock that, don't really want that to be the thing.
Right.
It gets to be possible, but we don't know the answers. And that's the terrifying thing.
Right.
Because when we wonder, I wonder what it would be like. I imagine it would be great, right? I imagine it would be awesome, but I wonder how heart-centered global, awareness is. And we go, does anyone have an answer? Because it's the safest place to be.
Right.
Like, I've had a wonderful, generous, caring thought. Everyone look at me. I had a generous, wonderful, caring thought. But my hands are tied. I don't know the answer. I don't know how this is going to happen.
Right.
So I'll stand on the side and I'll cheer everyone on who's struggling to swim.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not potentially going to dive in, because is it possible? You've imagined it. Yeah. We just don't know the answer yet.
Right.
Because there's no deadline. This is the thing. We don't have a timeline. We don't have a resource in that moment.
Right.
But if you believe in speaking, like speaking into reality, then because you've had that imaginative thought, you've imagined a world where everyone's heart-centered, the things that you need will become present. And it's up to us to go, okay, this is part of my toy box. This is, within the confines of this space that I've created of imaginative thought, of possibility. And I trust that if that's still true to me 6 months down the line, a year down the line, 2 days down the line, 2 hours down the line, then I'll clock that thing and I'll make a conscious choice as to whether that gets to be part of that journey or not.
Right.
So because answers provide safety, provide certainty, and actually that's another word. I can't remember if you've had certain as one of your words.
I have not yet, though. I'll write it down.
Certain is a B asterisk 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 H, like because certainty doesn't exist. Because we minimize risk as much as possible. Certainty is impossible to achieve.
Right.
So if it's impossible to be certain, then everything is possible.
Right.
We just don't necessarily know what it looks like yet or feels like yet. Like we have the feeling of that 95% thing, but there's going to be loads of feelings along the way.
Wow. It's very interesting. Hopefully it's not a rabbit hole for me, but we had I had a word, imperfect was one of our words, and in that conversation with Chrissy, we kind of came to some understanding that perfect doesn't exist, and now certainty doesn't exist. And so here's the rabbit hole. Here's the beginning of the rabbit hole for me. That why do we have so many words in our language that don't exist? But we hold so tightly to that. It's like, what the hell is that up to? We hold on to certainty when it doesn't exist. Certainty doesn't exist. We hold on to perfection, and it doesn't exist. And I'm sure there's a lot of other words that we hold on to. What do you think that's all about, and how that comes? I think, and it kind of keeps us out of the imagination space. It keeps us, if we want certainty and perfection, we can't, we can't be in the possible. We can't be in the
right. Well, because we've been told that getting all the answers right in the test means that you are going to succeed.
Right.
Means that you're better. And so these things have been created because we didn't want to get chucked out of the tribe. It is, and this is what I mean about certain words carrying energy, that we carry down the family tree, that we carry down the evolution of human beings.
Right.
Because it's a constructed energy. It sells things. If we create an unobtainable concept, then it means that everyone is always striving. If we create a person who looks perfect and say, you can look like this too, if you use this thing, you can achieve monetary, affluence and success if you buy this car, if you get this kind of job. And you might not, you might be 18, you might have potentially left education, and suddenly someone tells you that if you go into IT, or if you got something that you may have never had any experience with, then you can make 80K in your first year, perks and whatever. You go, oh, I should have, I regret everything I ever chose to get to this point. Because what I should have done is seen this thing. Or I wish, this is the, hindsight's 2020. I wish someone had been in my life to have told me what I should have done. Or I wish that person had been wiser. Like we diminish everyone else's qualities because we're told that what we are is not enough.
Wow.
And everyone is 100% of the time. This is what terrifies me when I look into the world now, is that we have billions of people who believe that they are not whole, that we're told that we find our other half, and we're whole. We're not half of a thing, we are a whole thing, and we may or may not choose to create a Venn diagram. I'm a whole individual person, and Angie Cole, my warrior Amazonian Uber coach princess, otherworldly being, is an individual person. And so when we come together, we do not sacrifice, we do not move our space. Like the bit in the middle that we create is a separate entity. There is me, there is her, and then there is we. Like there's a third option. Not even option, it's a new creation. And so I don't have to give a bit of my space. Like those two lines, those two circles stay whole. They stay intact. They don't have to like break a line to think. They lay over the top. So rather than me going, oh, well, I've got to give a bit of that to that, and then like the middle bit is like more of her stuff than mine. No. But we're told for a happy relationship, it's give and take. No, because that implies the need to balance. That if I do a kind thing, she has to do a kind thing. That I buy her love, that I buy her affection by doing a nice thing. And that she then has to do something of a similar scale. But the problem is context and subtext means that our life experiences mean that I weigh that gesture that she's done differently than she does. So the thing that she then offers back to try and balance these scales of love and affection might not be, like she might think, oh, that's the same as me washing up without her asking.
Right.
But to me, it might not. So there's still a deficiency, there's still a discrepancy there for her to make up.
Right.
And it's killing us.
Right.
And that's what terrifies me, is that people feel they need more, or that they need to be more. When everything they have imagination. They have all the imagination they need.
Right. We could talk, for hours, but I'm sure there are things that will have our attention for the rest of the day. And you're a number of hours ahead of me, so I have some more of the day ahead of me. But what I could imagine from at least the the last part of this conversation is that I can imagine a lot of people getting whole or getting awareness of their wholeness. And so
Right.
thank you for sharing that. Hey, I'm going to put up how people can get in contact with you, or is there any last thing or anything you're looking forward to do after, I guess, the quarantine or lockdown or whatever, or anything that's going on?
So people can connect with me on my Instagram thing if they want to. Give me a follow. That's where most of my kind of musings go. And it's just play.
Right.
To imagine is to create a world that you don't have to choose. Just
Right.
possibility.
This
Imagination is
possibility.
possibility. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I can roll with that. I don't have to fear that.
Right.
I don't have
Exactly.
to feel that. Well, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank
If
you.
you have a moment, I'll put you back in the green room and I'll close the show and we'll have our proper goodbyes.
Great.
Thanks again.
Bye.
I I really appreciate that conversation. There's a part of me that I don't know what I expected. Sometimes when I have these conversations, there's like an expectation of, how it's going to go, what I'm going to say, all that kind of stuff, and still try to say that. I don't know if you show up to conversations that way. They're a large part of my interaction with people. I felt needed to be scripted because, I could say anything. And so I would kind of say, okay, I want to have a conversation with this person. So these are my talking points. These are the things that I want to say. And I think what I'm learning when this show and this one word conversations is the more that I just, say what I say at the beginning or say, but just kind of listen and be open for really how it's showing up and go from there. And I really got for myself that I don't have to be afraid of my imagination. I don't have to dismiss my imagination on a level that I won't be able to manifest what's possible in my life. And so I appreciate Paul sharing and just really giving of himself to give me that understanding. I am adding an opportunity to be a part of this conversation. Later on this week, Thursday, I am starting a YouTube show called Join in the Conversation. And where I invite the viewers, you that comment and kind of thing, to kind of join in, kind of recap some of the conversations that we're having. And if there's any conversations that you want to start, I'll bring you on and you'll be our guest. So you have to get camera ready, I guess, but to be involved. But I really appreciate you spending some time with me in this one word conversation, because the world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning on One Word Conversations.